Hey everybody, it's James here from NeuralNet Games, and today we're talking about a fun build for the Red Guard. There are going to be spoilers here for level 5 cards and above, so I'm going to give you 2 seconds to get out of Dodge if you don't want to see those, but make sure that, you save this video so when you're at level 5, you can come and watch it. Okay, we're waiting now. And creepy stare done. Let's start. So this is kind of a trick build. And disclaimer, I have not extensively play tested this. I've just fooled around with it. I want to say thank you to one of my viewers, Darren Dunking. He kind of just brought this to my attention. And I thought, oh, that's kind of a cool way of thinking about it. So what we're doing here is we're talking about the card Sand Devil. And the whole premise of this build is, putting Sand Devil out and allowing it to carry you through the scenario. Every turn it allows you to move 2, which is just enough in most scenarios if you never have to sit still. And so we'll talk about exactly how this works and what the implications are. But the reason I like this build is that it allows you to play a ton of bottom actions that aren't moves. So Gloomhaven is balanced around the fact that, you play a bottom, you play a top. And a lot of abilities are positionally tough on the bottom, but effective. Let's say you've got an attack on the bottom. You've always got a lot of attacks on the top, but you have far less on the bottom. So when you don't have to move, or when you don't have to use a card action to move, it's amazing to have a bottom attack because you get to move and change position and attack with the bottom, whereas normally you would already have to be in a position adjacent to a monster to attack with that bottom action, especially like for a bottom melee. That's why bottom ranged attacks are amazing. They're amazing. One specific example comes to mind, the Tinkerer's Murderous Contraption bottom. That's a fantastic card. So, Gloomhaven is balanced around the fact that bottom attacks and actions are usually there in lieu of you moving, which means that you're static and it can cause a lot of problems. So, if you can move every single turn with the Sand Devil, it allows you to play a lot more cards for their bottom effects instead of moving, so it pushes your power curve up. I don't think this is probably the optimal way to play the Red Guard, but I think you can do some really fun things with it, so let's get into it. Okay, before we get it fully into the premise, I've got a Red Guard guide. It's called my Ultimate Red Guard Guide. It's one of my most popular videos. I'll put a link down in the description, so go ahead and check that out, and that'll show you how to play the Red Guard all the way through. And then also, I should have an article written on it right now when this video comes out. So if you are interested in reading a guide, you prefer to read overall, I'm going to put a link to that down in the description as well. And so the premise of this build is using Sand Devil to move. So first turn you play Sand Devil, and then use a bottom action to move onto it. You're going to take 1 damage, and you're going to muddle till the end of your next turn. That's okay. If you don't step off the Sand Devil, you only take that point of damage and that muddle the very first time. And now every single turn going forward, you get to move 2 before you take any other actions. So, is 2 move enough? Yes, but it's going to be tough for you. You're going to have to be very diligent in managing your position and making sure that you're always pretty much moving towards the next room every turn, because you don't want to have to get off the Sand Devil. So when you're actually moving, you want to be flanking and attacking monsters from behind. This means you're going to take a little bit of extra heat, but we're going to have extra power because instead of playing, a move and an action, we're going to play action a lot of the time. And we're going to take specific cards for that. And it's going to increase our power curve. But you run the risk of getting left behind if you're not very diligent and always using that to move to get closer to the next room. Okay, let's talk about cards, specific cards that are going to be useful for us. This is not going to 100% be a blueprint. Like I said, I haven't extensively tested this. I've just played around with it, had some fun, did pretty well with it, but it's not going to be replace this card, take this card at every single level. We're just going to talk about the cards that you should use more often. Before we get there though, just wanted to let you know I've started a Patreon, tons of cool benefits in there, vote on my videos, stuff like that. And if you're looking for a way to support the channel, and I am a small channel, I do need your support. That's the way to do it, is through Patreon. Also, I do have a Twitter account posting fun board game news and just whatever I feel like that's interesting. So make sure you follow me. I'll put a link to the pin in the pinned comment to that as well. Okay, let's just talk about a few cards that make sense for us, that are going to be, better. We're going to play them for their bottom actions. Not always, but far more often. So we're going to have, doing this, we're going to play a lot more actions total than we would normally. Not more actions. We're going to play more non-move actions in a scenario than we normally would. So the first is the sickles, blinding sickle and flaming sickle. You're very often going to be adjacent to monsters, and so you're just going to pop these off to loot and do damage. It's going to be really nice to move, attack top, and then do suffer damage and soak up loot a lot. Being able to move every turn and loot quite a bit is going to mean you get to snag a lot of cake. It's going to be really fun. And then next we've got Twirling Stabs and Warrior of the Sun. These bottoms are attacks. You're going to need to be in melee range, and you very often are. So just remember that when you're playing any ranged top attacks, you're very often going to be at disadvantage because you're going to want to play all of these nice bottom actions, and they're, basically all adjacent. So we get to attack more with these. We get to play these in addition to a top attack. And then we've got Shield Spikes, we've got Warmth of the Sun. These are going to allow us to move, attack, and heal all in the same turn. And, not super powerful heals, but still very good to be able to play those consistently. With some of our other shield cards and stuff like that, and, throwing in this healing, it's going to be really, it's going to be pretty powerful. It's going to allow us to keep topped up, even though we're very often adjacent and in danger. And then anytime, you're not always going to be able to play these cards for their bottoms, right? Maybe you want to attack with one of the sickles at range or something like that. Choose other cards that have a good effect in addition to the move, because really you're not going to be able to use just a pure move. So something like Fierce Brilliance bottom that still does damage, even you don't have to use the move, so you don't have to get off the Sand Devil. And then we've got something like Flying Sickle. You get to attack without having a light requirement, right? You don't need to move to get into position. So you just play the card for the attack and you're good to go. You don't actually have to have light up so that you can move, get into position, and then attack with the bottom. So those are kind of the cards that I was thinking about. If there's anything I've missed, or you think there are other implications I haven't covered, make sure comment down below. So the Cragheart, the one main card that drew me to talking about the Cragheart, and these are just examples. I'm going to give 2 examples. I don't want this video to go on too long. I think the possibilities out there are really interesting if you, port the Red Guard into original Gloomhaven, which can be done pretty easily. I've got an article on, how to do that. I'll put a link down in the description of, what stuff you can transfer from Jaws of the Lion into Gloomhaven, which, items match and everything that matches in there. And I talk about the differences as well. So I'll make sure and link that. Anyways, the Cragheart, what drew me to talking about the Cragheart was Avalanche. The bottom of Avalanche, where you can create 2 obstacles. It's such a pain to be in the right position. It requires a lot of forethought, and it's actually quite annoying to not be able to move. It's so nice if you can find a way to move. Having a move too, where you can move that turn and then place 2 obstacles, is super fun. And it's one of those things where, you could use it even with cards that you play for the bottom that could slow you down for a turn. So let's say you play the bottom of Pummel, right? That's going to slow you down. That stops you from moving that turn with the Cragheart. And so when you can move and play that, it helps you accelerate your power curve, because sometimes you know, you may not be able to attack. Like, what if you only have a melee attack left in your hand, and that move allows you to get into melee range and play the bottom of pummel that turn? That's going to accelerate your growth curve over the course of the scenario. So I think it works pretty well with Cragheart, and it allows you to play a ton of like good bottom actions and top actions. Okay, let's talk how this would work with the Saw class. If you don't want spoilers on the Saw, hit pause right now. So the main thing I was thinking about with Saw was hold back the pain first, like the most obvious, right? It's so tough to play hold back the pain and vital strike without doing a lot of fancy work. I do have an ultimate guide on the Saw though, so if you're looking on how to pull that off, I give very detailed instructions on what you need to do to pull that off. And it is totally doable, and if you do it the right way, you can just wreck things. But being able to move to and play hold back the pain and vital strike, that came to mind first. And Saw has a ton of strong bottom actions and no top move. And so a lot of times the positioning requirements make you a lot less effective because you've got to be very on your game. But if you could just move to every turn freely on the Sand Devil, it would make things so much easier. Like, take a syringe or take Bloody Saw. You can loot with the bottom of Bloody Saw and move. Hand of the Surgeon works great with Hand of the Surgeon. There's so many examples. I don't want to go through them all, but Saw is definitely one that could do very, very well with that free to move every single turn. So let me know what you think. I think Saw is a pretty misunderstood class overall, but this could really help make the Saw a lot easier to play. Make sure and comment below on your thoughts on how this would work with other classes, how it would work with Saw, whatever you want. And I just want to say thanks for watching the video, and a big thank you to my subscribers and my patrons. I wouldn't be here without you.